Ali, talk to us, if you will, right? So if Republicans are able to win control of the House, where are we on this question of leadership? And is there any viable alternative to McCarthy?
So I'm glad that you used the word viable there, Yasmin, because that's the open question. There is technically a challenger to Kevin McCarthy. It's Andy Biggs, a member of the House Freedom Caucus. Members of that caucus have been saying over the course of the last week or so that they anticipated there being a challenge. They solved the problem of you can't challenge someone with no one. They put a name on the line there. But the whole point of Andy Biggs running is not even necessarily to win this vote that's happening today. It's more just to prove the fact that Kevin McCarthy himself doesn't have that magic number of 218. And I think it's important for us to keep in mind what today's leadership elections are versus what January is. Because for Kevin McCarthy, January is really what matters. But today's leadership elections, which start later this afternoon, will tell us a lot about the amount of politicking and concession making he's going to have to do with various parts of his caucus to actually get to that magic 218 number several weeks from now. And I think that's the point that most members have been making. You can just listen to a slice of what we've been hearing in the halls here. Check it out.
As I stand here right now is that Kevin McCarthy does not have 218 votes to become Speaker. I don't think he has 200.
Andy Biggs would be an outstanding Speaker, and he would be among my top 2 or 3 choices for Speaker if I could just give someone 218 votes.
Okay, so if Matt Gaetz is right there, the first person that we saw there talking, and if McCarthy doesn't crack 200 votes today when he's in this conference meeting, then that's a signal of a big problem. At the same time, if he's above that, it's clear that he's shored up enough of his caucus that he can make a real run at this. But look, nothing is for certain. The House flipping was supposed to be the easy part for Kevin McCarthy and his party. We've seen now we're a week from Election Day, and that still hasn't been called. They're operating as if they're taking the House. Democrats still kind of keeping hope alive here. They've got their own leadership machinations to figure out. But on the Republican side of this, we'll at least have a clearer picture, Yasmin, in just a few hours of A, where McCarthy stands, but B, where the rest of the leadership structure shakes out.
So you're reporting, obviously, and what we're seeing as well is much of the pushback is coming from the right wing of the Republican Party, right? So what are the concessions, it seems, that you're hearing they're wanting McCarthy to make if they're going to back him?
Yeah, look, there are some concessions that are loosely on the table right now. They can do everything from trying to make it easier to oust a speaker. That would be a huge concession from the potential Speaker of the House, if it's Kevin McCarthy, to the House Freedom Caucus. There's also things about the way that chairmanships are elected and allotted, who controls that process. Basically, things that would strip away power from the Speaker and put it in the hands of just members of the conference. That's clearly something that they can push for, but really, I think the thing to remember here, Steve makes the point that, the majority could be 220, 222. Kevin McCarthy needs as many of those individual seats to tip in his direction as possible, because when you're dealing with margins of 2 or 3, it basically means that every House member on the Republican side kind of gets to be a Joe Manchin, always gets to be a kingmaker in their own right, because you are playing with numbers that are even smaller than the numbers that Nancy Pelosi has been operating in over the course of the last 2 years. She's someone who has regularly had to balance her caucus. She's only been able to lose a handful of votes, maybe a half of dozen of them on some of these key votes that we've seen them do over the course of the last 2 years. McCarthy is going to be in an even tighter position, most likely. And we're just seeing it play out here, first and foremost, with if he's actually going to get to be the leader of this conference or not.